Hey everyone, welcome to the episode. Today we are talking with the enigmatic Chris Mixer, a writer for Non-Sport Update magazine. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Hi,
Thank you.
Chris.
Glad to be here.
We're so excited to talk to you today about today we're going to be talking about the blank sketch card conspiracy.
I might know something about it.
First of all, I'm really interested to know how you got interested in trading cards.
And some of your work as well, like who you actually are. I don't really know you.
Thank you. So my name's Chris Mixer. Currently, I am living outside of Atlanta, Georgia. And I started as a collector in 1998 when Fleer put out the Marvel set that included one sketch card per box. It was the first set to do that. And I started, that was in the infancy of eBay. And so I was accumulating sketch cards off eBay. And back then you couldn't pay digitally. You had to mail a money order through the mail to pay and then wait and hope that your purchase would get back to you. And so I was accumulating more than 20 years ago. And as a collector, I've never stopped collecting sketch cards. In fact, my personal goal is to own one sample of every sketch card set ever made. And I got like, I don't know, 500 different sets in my collection. I just got a new Monster Wax sketch card this week. So ultimately, because I just had a lot of knowledge of the history of sketch cards, Non-Sport Update invited me to be on their regular contributing writers. And I have the joy of interviewing sketch card artists. And I've had the pleasure of interviewing both of you. Thank you kindly. You guys are brilliant interviewees. And because of my work with Non-Sport Update, Cryptozoic Entertainment asked if I would be one of their consultants. So I also work for Cryptozoic Entertainment.
That's amazing. I love how you've been hunted, because you must just be so great at what you do.
I just hoard a lot of cards, and everyone wants to know what's sitting on my desk.
Fantastic. You also have something to do with the Blowout Cards Forum.
While I'm a regular poster and I read a lot, I am not currently on staff with Blowout, but I could probably point you to the right people if you have a question.
Yeah, I've seen your posts. I've seen some of your posts over on the Blowout forums, and I have actually seen your posts where you are actually asking for cards for your collection, for your one of everything, and that's pretty fascinating. You are one of those intense collectors.
Well, what's interesting over the last 20 years is how message boards have become fewer with the rise of social media. So more people are pursuing groups on Facebook and websites, and Blowout's kind of one of the last active message boards. Non-Sport Update has one, but there's only a handful.
What do you think about that? What do you like? That's something I've been thinking about a lot. I used to be a very active member way back on the Scoundrel forum.
Scoundrel, sure.
It was like an amazing forum. It really, really, really was. I will always be grateful and thankful to that forum. Mm-hmm. But of course, many of those forums, along with digital webbing as well. I'm not sure if you're aware of that one, but that was another very active forum for a while and promoted artists very strongly. What do you think about the demise of forums? Do you think they're going to come back? Because Facebook changes its algorithm a lot, and then you've got all the mess with political conspiracy and all the rest of it. What do you think is going to happen?
I think two things happened with forums. One is that you couldn't police who joined and who commented. And I think some of the comments became negative, and the artists don't need to surround themselves with negativity. And so the nice thing with Facebook is you can delete people or gatekeep a little bit. And so you can have more like-minded people together, where message boards, were kind of the Wild West. The other thing is that message boards seem to be susceptible to bots, to non-human people that just want to advertise And so you would get a lot of posts for, you know, random products instead of staying on subject. And I think that until a message board can police itself better and keep the bots out, I think Facebook's gonna stay the most popular option.
Very interesting. So that would kind of tie into one of the reasons we're here today, and that would be the blank sketch card debate.
The blank.
Go ahead, Lindsay.
Well, over the past week or so, we've seen somebody going around asking all the artists if they have blank sketch cards for sale. Now, as we all understand it, when you work for a company, you do not sell your blanks. That's for you to draw on. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, Chris, from your Cryptozoic point of view?
Yes.
About how you feel about artists doing that?
So Cryptozoic obviously works on major movie licenses, major TV licenses, and therefore we do have a parent state that polices what's on the cards. They don't want their characters in any kind of nudity or excessive violence. They don't want, you know, one popular character cutting the head off another popular character. They want to protect their intellectual property. And so every sketch card that is collected through Cryptozoic is reviewed and approved by the licensor. Often the licensor will tell us certain characters that are not allowed. And so we just finished our Crisis on Infinite Earth set, and there was at least 3 characters they said don't draw on any sketch card. We are currently building a Lord of the Rings Middle Earth set, and there are 3 or 4 characters that cannot be drawn on sketch cards. And so if the artist either forgets or didn't read the fine details, those cards are just pulled and destroyed. And so the fear is if blank sketch cards are out there, they're no longer being approved by the licensor, and some material could be put or added on them that has nothing to do with the intellectual property.
Okay, and that has happened actually on, if I remember right, over the years, especially for Topps and Lucasfilm and all that, that has happened on occasion, and it affects us artists. It affects the companies, all the companies, be them big or small. It does actually happen to some of the smaller ones now, the like R Parks cards, so some of the other ones that I'm blanking on the names, but it's detrimental to everyone. So what's the current issue that's been happening over the past few weeks? I think there's been one person in particular who's been singled out for this. How does it happen? How does it happen that these people actually get these cards? Is this like Mission Impossible, and they go into the companies and they take out the cards, or how do they find them?
A number of ways. The gentleman we're talking about in particular actually posted a picture of his current collection so that he could prove to people that, you know, he is amassing blank sketch cards. And in his photo, he had 27 different sets, sometimes as many as 50 copies per set. So I'm guessing he has 300-400 blank sketch cards. And there's a couple of things I would say. Number one, if you look at them, especially the Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull sketch cards, you can tell that they were not provided to him blank. Those are pencil sketches that have been erased. So he is purchasing pencil sketches and erasing the artwork so that they are newly blank. You can tell because at the bottom middle of the sketch card, there is a roller mark where the card has gone through a sorting machine. And so while you can remove the pencil on the sketch card, you cannot remove the roller mark. And so a couple of things have happened with this one. I'm not going to call him a collector. I'm going to call him an investor. And I'll get to that in a minute, because he is clearly not doing this to amass a collection. He is doing it for some other purpose. And this investor is actually asking sketch card artists to sell their APs instead of drawing on them. to provide them to him blank. So the three ways he can collect is buying pencil sketch cards and erasing them, buying blank sketch cards straight from the artists, or just hunting eBay until blank sketch cards show up on eBay, and they do show up on eBay.
And how did those blank sketch cards get on eBay?
So in my role in Cryptozoic, an interesting case happened. One gentleman was working on a set, and because of circumstances, we all get it, we have family issues, he missed the deadline. So he had 50 blank sketch cards in his possession, and the set was already completed and packed out and done. And so we asked nicely, will you please return your 50 blank sketch cards? And he said, what's my motivation? You're not going to pay me. And so our recourse there is to either get involved with legal or blacklist them from future sets or whatever. But because he had missed the deadline, all we could do was ask nicely or start getting legal.
And
Wow.
How did that turn out? May I ask how that turned out?
It's still in progress, but the short version is we're always going to be looking for agreeable answers. And so we said, if we invite you to our next set and forgive everything, will you return them? And I think that's what's going to happen. But the idea is sometimes artists, especially if they're new and they don't care about their reputation or their future involvement in the hobby, they have blank sketch cards to sell.
They may not also realize that even though they sketch cards, for them, they may think, I'm here today, gone tomorrow. But as many of us discover, people who are in sketch cards can sometimes be involved in different parts of the industry as a whole. So if you get a bad name in one little area, it may follow you along the road if you're trying to get to a bigger spot or something like that. So maybe they should just keep that in mind. However, it still boggles my mind that this is happening at all to begin with, because nobody's going to make $1 million on this. So,
well, I'm going to speculate here. I cannot give definitive answers, but I've been around to see some stuff. One thing that was very popular about a year ago was taking blanks, drawing something wildly inappropriate on them. Like I saw Tupac Shakur, the rapper, drawn on an X-Files sketch card. And then you can send it to one of the popular grading companies, PSA or BGS. And PSA and BGS are not educated enough to know the artist list, the approved artist list. So they will slab the card as authentic. So even though artists and collectors know that was not a licensed card, it has now been given validity from a third-party grading company. And so when it's sold on eBay or otherwise, non-educated people assume, well, if BGS or PSA authenticated this card, it must be authentic, even though there's 100 red flags on the card.
Oh dear. You'd think these companies doing the grading would know, given that they're certifying this stuff, aren't they? Like a second chance to have it certified outside of the licensor kind of thing, isn't it?
Right. Sometimes all they know how to do is authenticate the card stock. Like, yes, this came from Topps or this came from Upper Deck, but they have no idea that you were never supposed to draw, Tupac Shakur on an X-Files card.
So it kind of actually diminishes the value of having it authenticated for people who actually collect these cards, unless you're looking for something that is authenticated but wasn't supposed to be created. There's always a market for that kind of thing, I suppose. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out.
I will say that when a year ago when this was taking place, the wildly unlicensed cards, we're selling for, good money because it's such a unique collectible. No one else is going to have anything like that. And so that's why I say, I don't think the gentleman with the 27 sets of blank sketch cards is a collector. I think he's an investor. There is a very current rise in non-collectors entering the non-sports card market. And I don't know if you guys have been following sales, but cards like the precious metal gems, I don't know if you're familiar with them. They are not sketch cards. They are just insert cards in Marvel sets of popular characters, and they're shiny and beautiful and they look great, but they're selling for thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars, because investors have stepped into the trading card marketplace. I watched a trading card break the other day with the rapper Drake. Drake has entered the non-sport space. Gary V has entered the non-sport space. So these investors have entered, which obviously means if there's money to be made, unscrupulous people are going to find their way in.
I'm floored. I'm speechless.
Well, let me tell you, just this is off subject, but I find this interesting. Wrestling cards were traditionally held by a different license or a trading card company, but this month Panini started making wrestling cards, and they just put out their first set in the last week or so called Panini Prism, very popular brand of wrestling cards. And now there is one card on eBay, a John Cena Color Blast. It is not autographed, it's not graded, it's not even numbered, it's just a single card. It's at auction and it's currently got bids of $11,200 because, again, investors have entered the market, not collectors. And so when investors start turning to wrestling cards and Marvel cards, it might not be far behind they turn to sketch cards.
Well, they can invest in art.
Yeah.
Totally.
I bought my friends some, I made her like a little fun gift bag, and I bought her some Marvel stickers, and she's opening them and she got a trading card in it. So that was their Panini. I was like, I've never seen a trading card in a pack of stickers before. So yeah, it's happening, isn't it? And,
yeah, because the market's
the hobby more popular,
Yeah, because the market's changed so much during the pandemic. We see people that used to collect sneakers enter the trading card market. We've seen people that used to gamble in Las Vegas enter the trading card market. You have an influx of non-traditional collectors that are just now getting started.
Do you think they're going to stick around, or is this a passing thing?
Only time's going to tell, but they've been priced out of the Michael Jordan cards and the traditionally collected trading cards. So they're now looking for new opportunities that are buy low, sell high.
So obviously the pandemic did have an effect on the industry, and I'm going to make a guess that it's going to last. Maybe not for the betterment of the industry, but I think it will stick a little bit and maybe wane after that. Do you think the sports cards are going to go be more popular now that sports can actually come back into happening?
Well, I'm not an expert, but what's happening is that product is harder to come by. 5 years ago, you could walk into Walmart and see trading cards on the shelves. You could walk into a hobby store and have 5 or 8 different options. Now, almost everything is being scooped up the minute it's available. So because of investors, they're not buying one box for themselves. They're buying 20 or 40 boxes and then reselling them or whatever they do. So the problem is you have the rise of very affluent collectors, and you're pricing out new generations, you know, it's going to be hard to get kids involved because everything's more and more expensive.
Yeah. And then I hear there's also a bit of a shortage on paper. Is that?
Oh, yeah.
So that's going to have an effect on getting anything done. Like I'm worried about my last book. If there's a shortage on paper, I don't even know how that's going to happen.
Yeah, I know Cryptozoic was told it, and it's not across the board, but different paper sizes. And I'm going to make this up because this isn't the market I work in. But, you know, you can get like 12-point stock and 20-point stock, but you can't get 24-point stock.
Okay.
You know, you're right. There is limited supply out there, which is creating some changes in the market.
Wow.
I don't know how it is in the UK, but I do know that here in Canada, getting art supplies, which has been a bit of a challenge normally, is becoming even more of a challenge because, of course, you know, what with the pandemic and now the war and there, it's becoming tricky everywhere. Even mailing, when you have to ship things, the prices are going up and you can't ship just anywhere and all of this stuff. So that's definitely going to have an effect on the trading card market, the sketch card market. And getting back, tying this all back to the blank conspiracy theory stuff, I mean, it's surely going to have an effect either for better or for worse on stuff like that. People are maybe going to be trying to hijack things even more and more. What are your thoughts on all that now that you work for a company like Cryptozoic? Are they planning this into their sets, or do they talk about it? Or
well, the current policy at Cryptozoic is that we want scans of every proof, and we're going to keep them on file so that when collectors come to us and ask, you know, is this a legitimate proof, we can actually pull up files and say this artist drew or didn't draw. And the other thing is we can provide those scans to the licensor and make sure we got their approval on all their sketch cards. We used to, years ago, say, mail us your artist proofs, we'll scan them, and then we'll physically mail them back. But we just figured that's a delay that and a burden on the artist that we hope to.
It really, really is.
Yeah.
One.
Yes, we're hoping to make this a smoother, easier process, but it requires everyone to play along. And if everyone can't play along, we'll have to go back to, you know, older ways of doing things. And so the real danger of blank sketch card gate is that if one or two people ruin this, then yeah, it ruins it for everybody.
That is absolutely true. In the past, it's happened that some fairly nefarious things have happened way back in the scoundrel days and all of that stuff with, how do you call that? Cards that have been printed and all that stuff. You remember all that fiasco?
Well, policies had to change over time because you're right. I want to say, I'm trying to remember the exact set. Well, I'll go all the way back to 1998 when I started collecting. There were no rules. Let's be honest. It was such in its infancy, you didn't know what to do. So there was a famous inker, I think his name was Tim D-Z-O-N, Tim Dizon, who did all of his sketch cards in black and white, but said that if anyone wanted to mail him a pack pulled card, he would color it up for free.
Aftermarkets.
Yeah. And we thought that was, you know, great fun, you know, because again, it was in its infancy. And it wasn't until after, I think, the first Lord of the Rings set that Top said, all right, no more aftermarkets, no more painting up, you know, black and white sketch cards. And so it's been an ever evolving process of how we want to finalize sketch cards.
This is, yeah, I'm actually a little bit of a loss for words because you actually remember all this stuff, and I'm not. There are people that have been around in the sketch cards way longer than I have, and saw way more stuff happening. But it's at least a lot cleaner than it used to be, so to speak.
A lot of the companies now, yeah, have 2- and 3-page instructions of what to do and what not to do. Like, I think Marvel still doesn't like you to have a character point a gun towards the audience. You know, there's different rules that keep developing. I think Marvel also doesn't like their characters smoking. They don't want Wolverine with a cigar in his mouth, you know.
It's the same for tops. We're not allowed to, point guns, exposed flesh type of thing.
Have you heard the recent, well, we were talking yesterday about the recent GPK rules, weren't we?
Oh,
and
yeah.
a lot to do with GPK is all the gross stuff, and they're not allowed to do this anymore, not allowed to do that anymore.
Which is interesting, because that's kind of what it was founded on.
That's exactly what he said, yeah.
I mean, the kids absolutely love all the gross stuff. Like, they'll leave the gross in for the kids, bless them.
Yeah. So, what do you think? Do you think there's any way to stop the spread of blank sketch cards?
Well, as most people know, when you have a company job, you're asked to do 10 hours of work in an 8-hour day. So I can testify that everyone at Cryptozoic is very, very busy. And so we don't have a lot of time to just peruse Facebook or eBay looking for infringements. But a lot of people are really good about sending us information, and we take notes on all of that. And of course, if we see something, if something's brought to our attention, if anything looks out of place, we definitely address it. For example, one of Cryptozoic's policies is we ask that AP cards, even if they are beautifully drawn and appropriately drawn, are not available for sale until the product goes live. And we could explain that. That's so that we know we have the licensor's approval. We know that the set actually got made. We know that, plus it benefits the artist because now there's a buzz and collectors are out there looking for the product. And so if we see an artist that posts on eBay in advance of the release date, we just send them a nice note through eBay that says, please hold on to your card for 30 more days, and so we do as much communications as we can. But of course, we are not going to see everything. A lot of people can do things on social media that might fly under the radar once or twice. But if you're eventually caught and then we see that there's been a pattern, there is ramifications.
So people have to understand that it's not you, the company, or Cryptozoic, Tops, or even the smaller companies. There are small independent companies that are becoming victims of this as well. It's not the companies themselves that want to defend all this fun stuff from happening. It's their relationship with the licensee, or I forget which word you have to use, but for the company that they're getting the license from. If that movie studio or company or whatever is not happy, then the trading card company cannot produce a set. The trading card company cannot produce a set. There's not going to be any sketch cards to swipe. So it's kind of shooting yourself in the foot to do this for those who are.
Yeah, so Cryptozoic's last 2 sets, Crisis on Infinite Earths and currently Middle Earth, Lord of the Rings, is based on actor likenesses. And so it's not just the licensor that has to approve. Often it's the agents or the actors themselves. So there is a lot of steps of getting a card approved, and we have to play ball with all of those rules.
It's very complex.
Do you find that they want the artist to stick very much to photorealism?
Everyone's different. We have sent some beautifully rendered and painted cards to actors, and they're just like, I don't like my left-hand side, and so it gets crazy sometimes. And that's why sets sometimes take a long time to come out. Both Crisis on Infinite Earths and Middle Earth were almost ready. And then after approvals, we had to go back and find another 500 sketch cards because so many were cut out.
Huge headache. I mean, that's something you can't even predict that, can you?
No, you don't know if all of them are going to be approved or 80%, or if one artist is going. And what's so tragic and sad is that some artists never get answers, meaning they'll find out that only 75% of their cards were approved. And of course, we're going to still pay them 100%. I mean, they did the work. That's not the question. But then they'll ask me, why weren't my cards approved for this character or that character? And I'm like,
Okay.
it comes back to us with just a big red X on the face. That's all I get sometimes.
That's really, really interesting. Lindsay, I don't know if it's happened to you. I can't remember if you worked for the unnamed company I'll mention, but there is another company that if your card's not approved, I'm sorry?
I'm very, very lucky that I've never had any, well, not as far as I'm aware, like whatever APs I've asked for, I've got back. So,
okay.
So far, but I think my likenesses aren't too bad, and I tend to make people quite pretty, like being everyone up. So you know, if the actor sees it, they're gonna go, "Oh yeah, I look great on that. That's fine."
But there are some companies who will, you know, your cards don't get approved. It's not their fault. I understand that the cards are not approved, but you as an artist never know. And you don't even get paid. There's one company that does not pay if your cards are not approved. And it can take a year before they get approved.
I know.
And in the meantime, you don't know. And they never.
Cryptozoic's current policy is, if, you know, 75% of your cards are approved, that's good enough to be paid in full. But if only like 5% of your cards are approved, we have to have a conversation because something went very, very wrong.
Okay.
And then, of course, I'm trying to think what I was going to say about that, but you're right. The approvals process does not come with a lot of notes from the company because we're sending them in such bulk. You know, if we're sending them 5,000 images, they don't have time to put a note beside each one like this,
that's completely understandable. These are all little things that many of us, and me, even after all these years, I don't always know these details. And it can be very frustrating as someone who, you know, we as artists, Lindsay and myself and everyone else, you know, we have to figure, you know, we've got this amount of time for that set and all of that. And is it going to be worth it? Are we actually going to get paid? Being a freelancer is really insecure enough as it is, but if you don't even know if you're going to get paid for your work, well, that makes you even more difficult to work with, shall we say. So, you know, I'm speaking on behalf of some of the artists that I know are extremely frustrated and sometimes become a little sour, I think, you know, so I tend to turn the other cheek in many cases when I get replies for interviews and stuff like that, and they're kind of like, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, you know.
Well, speaking from my perspective, I'm happy if 5% of your cards get rejected because that means you took chances and risks. I mean, I would rather have a few cards that are outside the box. You know, if every sketch card is just a face shot, you know, then sometimes they start, even if they're beautifully rendered, they start to look similar. So I want people to take some chances. Give me a castle or a ship or a, you know, planet instead of just, you know, one more face shot. So I think artists should take some risks, even if 5% of them get rejected.
I think it would be really cool if some of the studios, I know the companies are pretty open to it, but the movie studios and stuff were more accepting of styles like what Lindsay likes to do, which is, you know, a little bit more inventive and more creative and stuff like that. But they very often want like photorealistic.
I know.
Like, yeah. But as you just said, you know, even collectors do like a variety of stuff. So, you know, it's maybe something that you companies could maybe gently suggest to some of the movie studios.
I think the reason that studios, or at least art directors, want, you know, photorealistic is it's safe. It'll pass approvals. They'll hit their numbers. There won't be a lot of holdup. But you're right. Collectors and everyone else likes something a little off the beaten path every once in a while.
There is one collector that I'm editing in this particular book who has a fascination with Lord of the Rings. And I mean, gal, I couldn't even put all the images in. He sent me like over 500 images for this particular and I mean, I just can't. But the variety of styles is like, and in all the collectors that send stuff, it's so cool to see a collection with a variety of styles where you'll have maybe one character, but it's done in, I don't know, 10 different styles, you know, from super photorealistic to suggestive, comic. Yes. Sorry, I'm blanking on all my words. But anyways, to see all these different styles is just so amazing. That's what makes it fun, I think. But like you said, to have, 10 cards looking exactly the same, it's a little bland, shall we say. So it's kind of cool to chat about. It's a little bit off the blank sketch card thing, but it is super interesting to talk with someone who knows a bit about that.
Well, let me bring us back to the blank sketch cards. Okay. Another thing I've seen in the past is when Upper Deck first got the Marvel Masterpiece license, and I forget what that was, like 10 years ago, some collectors took their blank sketch cards to conventions and had very high profile, comic book artists draw on them. Now, we all know for a fact Rob Liefeld never drew sketch cards, but people still like seeing his art on a sketch card. So collectors would still pay a premium for that card on eBay, even though we all know for a fact that was never inserted into a pack.
That reminds me, it seems to me that somewhere along my internet searches, Neil Gaiman did a few sketch cards for somebody or other.
Well, and those might have been legitimate. The first set Cryptozoic ever put out was in conjunction with one of the charities. I'm trying to remember the Freedom. Anyway, and Neil Gaiman did sign up for that set because it was for charity. And so those could be legitimate, but to my knowledge, Rob Liefeld has never been on a licensed set as a contracted artist, but you can find his sketch cards floating around the universe. And so
obviously you do a lot of movies and things like that. Has anybody ever done a sketch card set, like say like Neil Gaiman's Sandman or something like that? Because obviously there's a lot of art fans who buy that graphic novel. I mean, because the writing's brilliant, but the artwork's amazing as well.
My guess is that anything that's going to be a little more niche like that is going to end up on Kickstarter, not a major license holder like Topps or Upper Deck, only because they're looking for something that has very broad appeal to thousands of collectors. But I think with the rise of Kickstarter, you're seeing some very specific sets based on favorite books or obscure cult favorite movies.
Oh my God, yes. We've been chatting to, and both Lindsay and I have worked for a number of the smaller companies, and it's a ton of fun because, well, frankly, they pay a little bit better, but also they do subjects that are, off the beaten path, and it's fun, and they're most of the time more accepting of a variety of styles. Although you big companies are super cool and fun, but the smaller ones are very neat too. And as I've mentioned, I repeat myself endlessly. I really do think you big companies and small companies really complement each other really well, because one promotes the other, if I may say.
Thanks.
So I think that it could be cool to chat with a whole bunch of you all together and see what y'all think, with lots of coffee or beer or something, I don't know.
So the real question is, if you're at a convention, set up at a table, let's call it San Diego Comic-Con or whatever it is, and an artist is walking around, or a collector is walking around with blank sketch cards and comes to your table,
run.
Are you supposed to just say, that's not for me, or actually give them an education? And another question I've seen is, artists who were on a set, I mean, they're contracted, they're legitimate, but they ran out of APs. They were only given 5 and they've already painted and sent out all 5, have been offered a 6th one by a collector. You know, so they are semi official, on the list, contracted. Can they draw on a blank sketch card because they're already part of that set?
It will have somebody else's signature on the back though, surely. I mean, how do they deal with, do they not care, or?
No, I'm saying if it was truly a blank sketch card, like no signature on the back,
Right.
and they were contracted and they did participate in the past, they just ran out of APs.
That is a touchy question. I don't
I know. I'm not even looking for the answer. I'm just saying that's one of the conversations that's out there.
Yeah, it is. That definitely is. And it would be great to chat with a few people on that actually and see what everyone thinks.
I mean, initially, I mean, if it had somebody else's signature on and it's odd, they've obviously rubbed it out, not a chance.
Sure, of course.
No.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. You got it.
I think it's one of the reasons why, well, I don't know why, but I know in the beginning you were supposed to sign, well, many artists didn't sign their cards, first of all, way back when I started.
Right.
I am, what do you call, obsessive a little bit. I sign everything. It's like, I just sign everything. But most of us now will sign the back of the card, and most companies have made a point out of putting it on the back of the card. I know mine will never, ever be rubbed off or anything. I also put the date on the back of mine just so everybody knows, because I'm obsessive about the date and lists. But I know mine will never be, because there's so much paint on the back of my cards that nobody could ever copy it. So for me, I don't worry about my stuff. But for other, even if people don't like it, it's pretty much impossible to paint over mine. But for you, Lindsay, do you worry about these things?
Worry? I mean, the thing is, if anybody asked me to do it, I'd just say no, because I've got enough other stuff to do anyway. I'm not, you know, I'd rather just keep my nose clean and carry on what I'm doing. Like I said, I think rubbing out people's work is disgusting. I can't.
You just did a con last weekend. Was there anything nefarious happening there? Deets that you can tell us?
Not that I saw. No. I mean, we don't really have sketch card centered cons. It's mostly it's just Funko Pops everywhere, to be fair.
Yeah.
A few comic book creators, that kind of thing. But sorry for those listening, a little kiddie just
don't awe this one's a mess.
I'm crazy. Oh dear. Totally forgot what I was saying. I've seen a cat.
My heart melts. We just lost our 18-year-old cat 3 weeks ago, and my heart still hurts for her. Anyway.
Well, I will give you a random anecdote from history. Back when sketch cards were the Wild West and there weren't rules and it was still kind of new, I attended Heroes Con in South Carolina, and an artist brought their pack of 50 sketch cards to the convention to draw on in between, guests and while they're sitting at their table. And all the other artists at the convention were oohing and eyeing and asking questions and what is that, because they were so new. And what was funny is this artist started handing them out to his buddies, and because there was no rules back then. And when he submitted his 50 cards, only 40 of them were from him, and there was 10 random artists added to his stack because he just had his buddies drawing them while he was sitting there.
How cool is that, actually? I mean, I totally understand you can't do that anymore, but I mean, at that particular time, who knows who actually drew on it? That's crazy.
Well, and that's why what I would really love is that artists don't just sign the back of their cards, they also print their name, because so often collectors can't decipher signatures immediately, and we want to credit everyone where credit is due.
Maybe have a signature that's like develop a print signature or something. That could be a thing, maybe. I just love your cat. Sorry, all the people who can't
Oh,
see the cat. He's just
yeah,
amazing.
this one's trouble.
We need a cat set. That's what we need. We were actually, Elaine, well, for those who are listening.
Sign it.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Awesome. I don't have any of mine here. Oh, I do actually. This one is from, but I didn't sign the back. This one is from this
You're
one,
gonna show us the signature.
2007, and I kept it because this is done with pencil crayon, and it's really honestly a sketch. It's not painted. It's from 2007. I worked on the hero set. This was one of my AP cards that I kept. And I kept it for sentimental reasons because I did it while my kids were really small. I was, watching my kids and doing my cards at the same time. And this one, it's sentimental, but yeah. So it was, you can see that back then, most of us, I just put my initials on it. Even I didn't even put my name on it, which is like terrible. But I'm glad I put the date on it because there's no date on the back of the card, as you can see. So yeah.
So when did they start adding the signature box? Is that fairly recent?
No, I think there were actually some independent companies that always did. Well, way back when there was Strictly Inc. It was based in the UK, which had got an absolute terrible. Oh, that brings me to another question I wanted to ask you, Chris. Yeah, they had a terrible reputation, actually. And they always had a little thing in the back to sign their cards. But that's something else, Chris. There have been, even recently, I think, many artists that I have seen. I don't think it's ever happened to me, but many artists that have mentioned on Facebook and stuff, oh, well, I sent my cards in and I never got paid, but they all turned up on eBay. What's with that?
Like I said, the only thing I could speculate is that when a staff member turns over, they retire and move on. A lot of times things are in their email, and that email is not forwarded to their successor. Especially if someone quit without warning, they're just taking all those digital invoices with them. And so again, my perspective is I can make, in my position at Cryptozoic, I can make anything right. If you send it to me, and I'll give you my email, it's chris.mixer@cryptozoic.com. If you're owed anything from the past, we'll work to make it right. And we didn't mean to fall behind. We honestly just lost the information. Okay. But if cards were returned, obviously they're in the warehouse, and yeah, they got put into the system.
I think I wonder if it's when people post them back and they get lost in the post, because these postal companies, they'll hold auctions and people will just buy whatever, and if they get a set of cards, they're not going to contact Cryptozoic and go, I found a load of your cards. They're just going to whack them on eBay, aren't they?
Well, let me tell you a story that's wild. There is a famous artist named Colleen Doran. Don't know if you know Colleen Doran. Yes. And she drew for an Indiana Jones set, I think Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. Yeah. Sent her cards in, 30 or 50 or however many she drew. And she obviously, they got lost, never paid, never found, never surfaced for 10 years. And then the entire package was returned to her. She opened it randomly and found 30 or 50 finished sketch cards in there that from a set that's now 10 years old.
Oh,
and what do you do with them? Does Topps own them? Do you have to mail them back to Topps, even though they can't include them in the set? Do you get to sell them privately? Do you, and I never found out what happened to them. It just kind of went silent after that, and they never showed up on eBay. But if the post office loses them and then they show up 10 years later, what are the rules?
That's crazy. I wonder if that would happen to my Cryptozoic Lord of the Rings cards. That was Battle of the Five Armies, I think it was that
Oh,
set.
really?
Yeah, it was 30 cards, I think. Sent them back by I think it was UPS, Pure Letter, UPS. I don't know. Up here in Canada, it's not the same.
Expire or a contract's forever?
What's that?
The contracts expire or are they always forever?
Excellent question.
In theory, the cards are the property of the licensor. That's the way the contract's written. That they're not even the product of the printing company. I think they're the product of the licensor. But does Warner Brothers really want their cards back after 10 years? You know, yeah, what are they going to do with them? I don't know.
Okay. That is fascinating. Little piece of, I remember Colleen Doran when she worked on that set. I worked on that set too. And she was like, not pleased. Jan Dursima is another comic book artist who worked on, I don't remember which set that was. That's a long time ago. Colleen, Jan, did her husband work on it too? I don't remember. Anyway, sorry, old lady memories. So, well, I guess we're pretty much at the end of our time here. Lindsay, do you have any other questions? I mean, I could easily ask questions for the next 24 hours here, but
It's
your
so
cat is just so lovely. Do you have any questions, Lindsay?
I don't think so. I think we've covered pretty much everything I
And
wanted to cover.
NFTs. I wanted to ask you about NFTs.
Yeah, and while I'm not an expert, I do know a little. Cryptozoics going to try to get into that market. The idea is we would love for there always to be physical product, but to have a twin on the internet. And hopefully that just comes free with the card. Like you pull the card, there's a scannable barcode or whatever you call it on the back. And then in your digital portfolio, you got a digital version of the card you pulled.
Is it,
yeah, we're exploring that.
is it a unique digital thing? Is that the point of NFTs?
Well,
I'm not really, I cannot say I understand it.
Right. So NFTs can be original one of ones or part of a series like one of 10,000. And so you would probably make the base cards one of 10,000 and the sketch cards one of one.
So it's like a print.
It is. It's a digital print that is uniquely, attributed to your digital account.
And you have
That could help make sketch cards a lot more valuable, couldn't it?
I think we're still learning what this market is and how it works.
Okay, so you don't really understand it totally either.
Well, I know enough, like you can separate, like in theory, I could, once I scan my card and I have a digital version of it, I can sell just the digital version or just the physical version. They can be separated on the secondary market. And so that's what this new company that just came out this week, HRO or Cartamundi, released with their DC Comics trading card set, is that you open a pack of cards. Every card has a scannable barcode on the back. And as you scan it, a QR code, and as you scan it with your cell phone, it goes into your digital wallet. So now you have a physical card and a digital twin. And you can trade just the physical or just the digital. They can be separated at that point.
Okay, that's actually kind of cool. So it's like having a portable print of your hard copy. So you get the best of both worlds. It doesn't, it wouldn't really bring value or anything, but you can actually sell them, I think, can't you?
Well, the idea is that a digital version on what's called the blockchain will never disappear. Even if your wallet is, or your phone's destroyed, or you delete your account, like once it's on the blockchain, it exists forever because it's the internet. And so the idea is it's now in theory eternal. And yes, you can sell it, but anytime you sell something, it costs gas or some sort of physical money because you are dealing with electricity and computer servers and that kind of thing. So while you can sell it, it might cost you $5 to sell. You know, because there's a cost involved with whoever's hosting this on their server. And so the real question, and what you'll really want to discuss in the future, and I would love to pick your brains, is you can attribute a, I forget what you call it, a remainder or a tip or a, you know, a percentage to the artist every time it sells. So every time that digital sketch card sells, 5% goes back to the original artist.
Well, that's just like when you create a tune and and it plays, you get residual income.
Residuals, that's the word I was looking for. So
Yeah.
the idea is an NFT can have built-in residuals forever.
Yeah, well, I'm on board. I'm trying
Yeah, sure.
I'm trying to build my passive income. That's the whole idea. It lets you do other stuff.
Yeah, but we have to figure out like what happens then if that you know, artist ever changed email addresses or, you know, something where we couldn't get them the residual.
Yeah.
So we're still working on the details of what that looks like, but that is a possibility that every time an
Whoop, you froze up.
along with your physical card, but your NFT comes with a residual.
Okay.
That sounds amazing.
That is something to look into. You know, you don't make a lot of it, but it's nice to get a couple of pennies here and there for whatever.
Well, and if you have 100 sketch cards or, you know, then maybe it starts adding up.
Yeah, that is something, but that's a good point. You know, if you change your email address, because gosh knows our internet, our websites change, and I mean, right now, well, I used to have a Simpatico address, and then, well, you know, we changed this internet company, and well, that went out the window, and you have to contact a million different people to change your. So you go to Google, but is Google going to change? You know, who knows?
Well, the way you would get around it is you actually wouldn't send money through PayPal or whatever. The money would actually come on the blockchain.
I see.
And so each artist, unfortunately, would probably be forced to open
Yeah, I was gonna say the blockchain thing seems to be like an independent entity, kind of like
it is. And whether it's Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever the digital monetization is, each artist would probably be forced to open one of those accounts so that because they're eternal. And so that the money could still go there, even if your email address changes.
Well, we all had to create a PayPal account. So again, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Can I ask, if somebody wants to apply to Cryptozoic, how do they go about it?
That's easy. There is an email address. I think it's art.submission. It's on the website if I'm wrong, but I think it's art.submission@cryptozoic.com. And the only thing we ask is that you show us sketch card samples, not like large format samples. A lot of artists will only send digital portfolio or digital work portfolios or large format like blanks comic book cover sketches. And we want to see actual sketch card sized art samples.
Richard Parks said exactly the same thing that you did. He's like, oh, it's people send me this gorgeous artwork, but it's all 8x10s or 5x7s or something. And then you send them cards and they're like, what? And, you know, mind you, I've been there and done that. I still remember my first set of sketch cards and I was like, what? You know, it's everybody has a first time.
And let me go ahead and add this. Just because you're not chosen does not mean we weren't impressed or you were blacklisted or anything like that. Often we do have, you know, 100 submissions and only need 20 artists. That's just part of the game. So please don't take offense if you aren't given any one particular project. Okay,
that's great advice. On that, I think we're going to close it out for this time. We would really love to have you back. I'd really like to plan that little group get together with you and a few other art directors, collectors, what have you, to kind of chew the tobacco, or excuse me, I'm not allowed to say that, chew the fat or whatever, whatever's acceptable these days, we'll chew it. And so So thank you very much. Lindsay, do you have any questions before, because I've been chatting a lot?
I don't. I've found this absolutely fascinating, and to
Yeah.
think well, all the new ideas you're coming up with going forward, and it's all exciting to me.
Oh yes, it is really exciting, and I do hope that sketch cards keep evolving.
Mhm.
It's one of the questions I've been asking like everybody in all the interviews. What do you think of the future of sketch cards? What do you think it could be included with? Or could sketch cards evolve into something else? It would be kind of, I don't know, my little brain can't quite think of anything at the moment, but anyway, it would be interesting to see where it goes. Thank you so much, Chris. And I truly look forward to having you back on down the road sometime.
It's been a pleasure to see you and your feline friends today.
I forgot to ask you, people can find you at Cryptozoic or anywhere else?
Yeah, I am on Twitter at Sketchcards. And so if you like tweeting, I'll be there.
Do people actually tweet still these days?
No.
No. Okay.
But that's okay. It's my favorite.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Chris. Hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, guys.